Hello everyone, so here is another episode of Beyond Replication. We are recording this fresh with Sun in the sign of Aries. We are at the energy of spring equinox for us. For some of you folks might be autumn equinox. And yeah, we just entered into Aries season. So there are a lot of potent energies at play and we're going to talk about some of those.
Yeah, welcome to a new solar year here. The Aries season begins in this fire horse year. And of course, the energy of the wood snake is still lingering. There's the charred remains of the past always. But now it's about what do you do with all that charge? How do you expand into new awareness? And a lot of what that is releasing who and what you thought you were. And the world is giving us a lot of reasons to do that. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You keep what's pure and you continue to grow through and with that energy. And that's what the whole solar year beginning means for me. It's about rekindling, rewilding a realization of who and what you are through who and what you are not. And seeing how you can meet life and co-create in this world with that energy.
Yeah, and we still have Mars in the sign of Pisces, so how you said that we still, in a sense, in the after effects of the snake's year and also the after effects of the last lunation of the former astrological year, which was the Pisces new moon. And that was the first new moon in Pisces with Neptune in a sign of Aries. Also, we are heading for this Sun-Neptune conjunction on Sunday, which will be the first one in our lifetime because Neptune's cycle is like 160 years or so. So we have a lot of firsts going on here. Also, just as we recording this, Mercury station in direct, so excuse any technical issues that might occur during this recording. And yeah, like Aaron said, that there is a lot of inner standing because of course both rulers, ruler of the north node Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, which is connected to every lunation and all the intuition that we are attuning to, and Neptune is in Aries, but Mars is in the sign of Pisces, so still we are in that water realm even though we are transiting into fire, and it's helping us to understand and understand things in a different way, which is not necessarily possible to put into words or understand logically. And this is something what Aaron and I have been processing and discussing in our own experience, that there are a lot of things that we are aware of and becoming conscious of, but you cannot always put them in the words. So this is, I feel, potentially process that many people are experiencing, especially as Mercury is coming out of this retrograde, and as of tomorrow we'll have all planets in direct motion until May, when Pluto stations retrograde.
Yeah. So when all the planets are going direct, it's like it's the rebound of a rubber band, or imagine a spring, and it's recoiling back within itself. So there's an energy of catching up with everything that's been internalized into the external world and getting in a flow, depending on how many retrograde planets you have in your chart. These energies right now, there's a lot of narrative spinning. Judgments are being brought to the surface for people. And if they don't understand themselves, if they can't get deep enough to the core of who they might be, then they're going to hold on to the judgments that they've been aligned with in this world, within their cultures, within their relationships, and that inner world realization of your own relationship with yourself as being the true creation of all the projections that you feed into, the jobs that you've outgrown, the relationships you've outgrown, the dynamics with people that you've outgrown, the language that you've defined yourself as being a cold, hard constriction rather than the cradle of your own creation. It's like a prison cell or it's a cradle. So how do you break out of that in these times? A lot of the white male or the evidence in this world, it turns on you. Convenience turns on you. Just think of spell check and your technology. Spell check keeps fucking up everything you write. It gets you, this is just not just technology, but this is society, this is culture, it's civilization. It gets you accustomed to simplicity, ease, convenience, and then it turns so that's no longer available and you forget, you get lazy. And so then you have to have enough in your tank, enough spirit to say, okay, I'm done with this. I got to get back to the roots of who I am, which is a creative human being, not some automaton for simplicity and ease. And that's what this first world decrepitation, spiritual disease actually is. All this technology, all these great inventions, all our science, all our research is based off problems we've created in the past. So what we call cutting edge is just the tip of what we created thousands of years ago, and it's not necessarily in alignment with who we truly are or what we truly need in this world. You know, you get so high up the mountain you can't even see the foundation anymore. So you got to get back down to base. And if you look at this world and you see all the information coming out, all the stories, they hook you into the polarities of a side. And then they spin the story so that your side is bad. Okay, and then they spin it, your side's good, the other side's bad. And it keeps doing that. And if you can't even determine that you are not these stories, these people don't represent you, and you don't necessarily represent them unless you choose to, then you get pulled in. You swallow it up and burn with the rest of the ashes of the past. So you got to get out and be a fire horse, not a shedded snake skin.
Yeah, the dead skin that's already lost the meaning, that already fulfilled its purpose. It no longer has a purpose. Yeah, and it's interesting that you use the word foundation, because we have the moon currently still in the sign of Aries as we're recording this, but moon is shortly moving into Taurus, either late tonight, for depending where you are in the world, or Saturday morning, and we'll be there for the entire weekend, which is the foundation. And as I already mentioned, we'll be having the Sun-Neptune conjunction on Sunday, and also prior to that we'll have the Mars as the ruler of Neptune in trine with Jupiter as the traditional ruler of the North Node. So when we look at it from not just the astrology and the logic and the macro as a me in relation to this world and what's going on geopolitical scenes, and my role in the family and my role in the environment I'm living in and stuff. But when we look at it from the higher perspective, because Jupiter as the expansion of consciousness, Neptune as the source now being a sign of Aries, and then Sun obviously will conjunct Saturn next week as well. I believe it's on Tuesday or Wednesday. So we are in a Aaron and I just spoke about it this morning, like I call it the experiment, because rather than dying and going through the process of life review and excavating the meaning of the former incarnation, and then going through the healing process of the like what the soul gone through in that particular lifetime, and then getting together with all the spirit guides and everyone to create your new plan, blueprint for your next incarnation. This is all happening right here, right now, in the real time. We're going through this. Not everyone necessarily in the same way, because not everyone is going to be here in 20 years time and Pluto moves into Pisces. So this is where we all on the different stages of our process, of our journeys, and those of us that will be here in the next 20 years or so have to go through this process. Like it's like this process of reincarnation while you're still incarnated in a physical body. So an aspect of us, I mean everything that we think we know about ourselves, our life, what we believe, and how we experience in life on this planet is dying, and in some ways is already dead, is already gone, but we still feeling the after effects of it, like me and Aaron were saying that even sound, you don't hear it when it actually happens, right? You hear it belatedly, and after it traveled, it is not exactly what it was being said, right? Like we know that as stories are being told through generation of people passing on the gossip, by the time it gets to the 10th person, it's a completely different story, right? So we're going through this process of how did I say it? When things are actually dissolving, they are actually
disillusionment.
Yeah, disillusionment, like dissolvement, like we are now going through the process where that which was is already gone, but the new is not yet there. So we are in this in between, this transition. And I feel with this Aries season fully coming online with the Mercury direct and all planets direct, so all the post retrogrades are now in a direct dimension. Obviously, Jupiter is still in his post retrograde shadow, and Mercury will be until beginning of April at some point after the Libra new full moon. So we are starting to act forward. We will start to move forward. That okay, I had this time to digest, I had this time to realize with all these illuminations, with all these seedings of these new moons on 28 degrees, which the Pisces new moon was the final one of, we are now going to move forward. That okay, what you aren't, what you're not resonating with is a good place to start. So we don't have to keep repeating and re-attracting and re-experiencing the same bullshit over and over again, because I already know what it feels like. I might not know why, or I might not know all the details, the logical explanation of it, but I know what I feel like in when I'm exposed to that energy, whether that's person, circumstance, gossip, any kind of energy, because we are all energetic beings. Mm-hmm. So this is really what is starting to become more and more conscious for us as we go forward in this astrological year, new astrological year, with Saturn, Neptune in Aries, and Mars as the ruler still in the sign of Pisces, in the mutual reception with Neptune, his ruler, and the ruler of the North Node, obviously. So it is not what we think, it is not what we know. Actually, that which is going to be guiding us forward, it is unknown, and it is not to be known through the mind. So this is something that this Mercury, now stationed in direct, but throughout his retrograde in Pisces, was teaching us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as Mercury stations direct with the North Node in Pisces, and we have Uranus going into Gemini soon, and we've got that opening square from Capricorn into Aries as the Sun ingress today on the 0 point, the Aries point. So it's the stories of the past versus the pioneering of new mythology. The aliens aren't going to come from space. They're coming from inner space, from within you, and that's your consciousness, your psyche expanding. But you can't if you can't release the stories of the past, there's no room for anything new to grow. And if you think about it, when you're a baby, when you're a child, all that wonder, all that potential is answered by atomistic communal logos. The beliefs that we all hold in order to move forward and make sense and communicate in a singular language. And that language is a reason which creates a logic, which we limit ourselves in order to externalize the purity of ourselves and this godding into some form, into the atomism, into atom. So in this time, you have to release language so that you can create your own. That's your consciousness expanding. All these dynamic languages coming back to us, astrology, ancient languages we thought were dead and gone, coming back. This is awareness. This is the Nephilim. This is the Elohim coming back, and it's about this so old it's new energy, and you can harness all that energy. You can get in tune with that through sacred processes, practices, ancient rituals, or you can get into being the ignorant fool and allowing nature to unfold through you. And that's the stage I'm in. It's trying to get in tune with Wu Wei. The egoless action. If ego rises, it's natural. It's not because I pre-manufactured results that I seek to gain some modium of self-conviction through. I'm trying to learn here and release the past. It's the only way for it to live and grow. So as you mentioned earlier, why wait until your final review of a physical death? Die in life now. Die to yourself so you can grow into something new. And that way, when you do get to the final phase, you are not bound to the demiurge, to the beliefs, to the echoes of the past. And if you are bound, or the people you know and love are, that's their journey. You know, there are no wrong notes in a song without an end. It's just do it the easy way, or do it the hard way, or do it some other way, your own way. And let other people hold the judgment as to what that could be. And so stories, people, places, things, you know, we have nostalgia. There's a loving memory of our ancestors, but we placate that value into externalized creations like the history and of our cultures, our civilizations. We over-identify with our cultures when the culture is pop, think, bullshit, there to program you into being a slave. And it's a trauma loop conviction. It doesn't matter if it's a grand conspiracy orchestrated to control you. It's just when you go through an experience in life, there's a time, a process before you realize it's not actually what you thought. The emotions have to mature, and it's matured through you and your self-compassion. Now, don't be bound to what you thought you were. Allow yourself to grow into what you could be, and give other people that liberty and that love. You know, lead by living.
I'm just looking at the number, and it's 113, and it's the third month, and it's the 20th, and we are in the year 1, which is not the free, so it's like free. So here we go, the number speaks, the co-creation. And yeah, it's interesting because Aaron and I were just talking about the Truman Show movie, and you know, how there are all sorts of theories about that movie, but you know, like the way we understand things from our vantage point is like it's all metaphoric. So in a sense, the entire life is a metaphor in one way or another, and you know, all these books people go by and everything, a lot of them are actually metaphors, especially the so-called ancient ones, which again, you know, from my rebellious nature, I rebel even against the concept of history, because I don't believe any of that is actually truth. It's all like we were saying that, like, well, what is the difference between history book and a fairy tale or mystics, you know, like what you have the legends and mysticism and stuff, like there's no difference. Just because somebody said that this is fairy tale or these are the old tales and legends and stuff, but they're not actually truth, you know, they are like telltales or something. But this is the truth. This is the history that somebody said that this is what happened. But you know, how do I know what happened? You know, how do you know what happened? Were you here to observe it? Well, maybe in a previous incarnation, but not in this shape and form. So this is where I literally feel, you know, like for myself, maybe it's just my experience because of my Pluto and Neptune squares ongoing at the moment, that it's a complete cataclysm of the consciousness, not consciousness as the consciousness that's expanding, but our awareness as a human, the consciousness, the awareness, how we perceive this reality, this life on this planet. So, you know, you can talk about Aries, and yeah, we entering into Aries season and all the fire is coming up, and you know, people gonna get angry and they're gonna have more wars and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, we only going on the patterns. We trying to project past into the present, you know. So we going on to, well, this is what happened last time. This is what happened last time there was an Aries season. This is what happened last time Saturn was in Aries. You know, always astrologers, and like, yeah, of course, it's got a value and meaning to look at the cycles, but don't be bound to them, because even like Aaron would say that those who know history are bound to repeat it, not to learn from it, right? Because it's like the what you call it, the predictive programming, exactly. So if you really step out of all of these boxes, you realize that you don't really know. With certain, we don't really know anything, nothing.
Yeah, and if you're uncomfortable with that concept, you know, just think of yourself as you're in a process of gaining your sovereignty in life, and what that means is becoming aware of yourself and your own value as a unique individual, not as a role or a dynamic in a relationship to other people. So cyclical thinking means you can either go up the spiral or down the spiral. You know, you're going to go through the spiral, but it's not going to be the exact same thing. And it's directly relational to your concept of self. You know, the language of self is your ability to read the symbolics of life. And if you're constantly referencing the past sense of who you are, that's all you're going to see in the world, you know. The world is about all these actors, and they're people who are playing energies, roles, archetypes, cycles, seasons. If you get a position in a new company, your position is what you do. That's an archetype. You might do it differently than other people, but until you leave that company or do something for yourself, that's the role you're going to be. Similar in relation with other people in your family, in your society, your culture, whatever. Think of information and truth as epigenetic, not genetic, okay? I got so many people that I know and care about who say they have genetic deficiencies. The data shows this, the science shows this. It's like, so where's the data for the epigenetics of this world? What are we baselining it against? How accurate is the measure of our ruler? You know, the Egyptians didn't exactly use the same measurement system we do. They use 2 pi and all sorts of other things. So just because we can conceive of patterns doesn't mean that that's the totality. That's just our preference, and the preference is based off of consensus logos. What you feed into feeds into you. Where your attention goes, energy flows. So break that. You know, step into the real, and that's in the felt presence of experience, and you won't have true language for that. You'll just have relational symbolics. And Normeville functions because we say you jump off of a cliff and you die. So that means, you know, the Big Bang Theory is correct because all this math and everything we do to create based off that concept is true, but the ancients didn't have that theory. They had other theories and they functioned. These are cataclysmic cycles. You know, the Etch-a-Sketch gets shaken from time to time. So we got to have a cataclysm of consciousness before we meet reality. Everything happens in other dimensions first, bleeds in through reality. And that's up to you. What's your real eyes telling you? You know, what have you limited yourself to? It's hard to see beyond what you don't understand. You know, you can't see the edges of the cosmos, but you can feel, oh, if there is such a thing as a cosmos, it's out there. And I never watched the Truman Show, but I know the concept. And I don't believe in simulation theory. I don't believe in any theories. All truth is a guess. All religions are lowest common denominator outcomes, symbolics for languages that only you can truly understand yourself. And that's how I feel. That's the rebellion of self. You have to embrace that. Don't fight it and project it into the world. Keep fighting it in these leaders and these movements and all this other bullshit. Get within yourself and kill it off there. It's like a mental disease, a spiritual dis-ease.
Yeah,
and you got the cure.
There are so many things, you know, like based on, you know, what we've been, like if somebody, if we had a recorded conversation of our daily lives, there would be so many videos. But yeah, like what we were saying, even what I had the realization through reading with my client, my last client that I spoke with, about the in conjunction between Aquarius and, not Aquarius, Capricorn and Gemini, Capricorn and Gemini in conjunction, because we are now in the age of Aquarius, and obviously, you know, Saturn, Neptune in Aries and Pluto in Aquarius, and soon to be Uranus in Gemini at the end of April. We are like, okay, well, you know, what is this Aquarius? You know, what is this freedom, right? Because we all looking at the Saturn as the ruler of Aquarius as what we understand Aquarius to be, because that's the only way, right? Saturn is the manifested form. The Uranus is the unknown, you know, is beyond our naked eye to be seen. So we're just going by Saturn. That's why when people follow the cycles of the past, they're looking at the Saturn, you know, the Saturn of Aquarius, how did this play out?
Hellenistic astrology, Jyotish astrology. I mean, they all are good systems, they work, but we got to update our sense of what meaning actually is, and only these outer planets are the key to bringing that language to us.
Higher consciousness, yeah, because after Saturn you only have Aquarius and Pisces, which is the ineffable, which is the quantum field and the spirit realm. So now that Pluto is done with Capricorn and has been for almost 2 years soon, about a year and a half, we are not going back to Capricorn. Now also Saturn is in Aries, is not going back to Pisces for another 3 decades. You know, Neptune is not going back to Pisces in, probably even lifetime of your grandchildren. So that's what we're talking about here. So like with regards to what I started saying with the Capricorn and Gemini, like we are changing the definition of what freedom actually means, because freedom is not about rebelliousness or what most people would think freedom means. It means having a lot of money. They think, oh, if I have all this money, I'm gonna be free. But no, you're not gonna be free. You're gonna be slave to your money, because you can ask every rich person that they're like, like you would think, oh, yeah, if I have money, I wouldn't be worried about this and that, right? And rich people are not worried about the same this and that. They're worried about different things, like you will always have challenges. It doesn't matter what role you play in this world. There always will be, because we're living in the world of polarity and duality, so there always will be things you enjoy, like, for example, rich people, they enjoy certain things you don't get to enjoy, but they don't, they can't enjoy the things you enjoy, for example, like, for example, freedom, or, freedom of time, or freedom to just walk on a street, or freedom of not being worried about the stock market every night you go to sleep and thinking that all your money is going to go, like there are a lot of things, So again, going back to this Capricorn and Gemini, the only freedom actually is in the freedom of your free will's choice. Every moment of every day, of every experience that you have, you are choosing how am I experiencing this experience, because the only true freedom is in I choose and I'm taking responsibility for my choice. Whatever the choice is, that is the only freedom you'll ever have, and no money will give it to you. You can have all the money in the world, you can have all the husbands in the world and everything, but the only freedom that we actually have is the freedom of free will's choice and the responsibility for that. So most people, what would they say? I want to be free, I want to have money, but then they want to blame everybody else that they upset about for not having that, not playing that role on, in a huge stage of human population over here of 2020 whatever 6. So I would go and blame, okay, I can't have that because of this person, I can't be free because of that government, I can't do this and this and this, and then I don't feel free, and even if you have money, you still slave to all of these other things, right? So the only freedom that we'll ever have is the freedom of choice in this present moment, based on what I can choose and taking the responsibility. But most people don't want to take responsibility. They want somebody else to blame, which makes them the cancer, the child, and then the daddy, mommy, government, or whoever, that politician, that priest, that guru, that book, that whatever, philosophy, science, knowledge, wisdom, whatever it is, doesn't matter. ChatGPT, right? That's the newest guru for many. Then I am still not free, because here is the authority. So I feel like I have no choice. Even astrology, many people will say, well, what are the stars saying? And, what does this mean for me? Well, stars are not saying anything. They're saying, here's the energy, and you do whatever you want with it. And that is the freedom. That is the freedom to understand that you are free to choose at any moment, in any situation, in any circumstance, but you have to take responsibility for the choice. And that is the only freedom we'll have in this physical body, because there are a lot of things in this world that are not in your control. They are not your jurisdiction, right? They are not in your contract, like what's going on in the world, like the wars, the whatever, these things. These are different contracts. They are collective contracts. You didn't choose it, I didn't choose it, otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you here. So these are not in my playfield. They are not part of my contract in this incarnation. So, I can be unhappy about it all I want, bitch about it all I want, and feel as victimized and not free as I want, but actually I still have the freedom how much of my energy am I putting and focusing into that interaction, knowing that it's not in my jurisdiction, it's not in my control. So this is going back, circling all the way back, after I've said all that, to this Aries season as the initiation of this new astrological world year, with everything else that we going on. We are learning a lot of new things, and most of those we are learning what it's not what we thought it was. And by that, understanding that everything I actually thought, knew, and believed about this world and life is not correct. There is an aspect of it that is correct, but it's bound by time and space and who you're talking to, right?
Yeah, like you said, it's correct for Saturn, or it's correct for Uranus. So it's like power without perception is static at best. You can hold true to the past or to something you're cultivating in the moment, but it's not going to allow you to break free. And what is freedom? It's perception. The freedom we seek is not, as Mila said, in a connection to the atomistic world and the material possessions. Our consciousness is our currency, and that's where we put our attention, our intention. Intention is related to how much value you can hold within yourself. The depth of yourself is going to be the depth of the relation or the understanding of others in the world around you. And the language for the self is predefined by the past, but it's we nature our nurture into existence. So we're resonating in a way so that we can cultivate some kind of elemental force through our spirit rising within us. And we bring that into creation. And you either burn for the past or you burn for the future. The tension is always there. The laws of relation dictate friction. So it's you either use the tension or it uses you. And that's what astrology and life itself shows us over and over again, no matter what language you are focused through. And limitations are the same as potentials. So try and get out of labeling things and sitting on that label as if it's the top of the mountain. There can be a feeling of nihilism, or what is anything worth in this world if it's just ever expanding. But it's not about, it's about the felt presence of experience, the journey, not the destination. Try and make the journey the destination. Realize you're alive in this world. And you've got gifts as well as curses. And you can cultivate those things and you can mature them. And mythology is one language that you can use to help you understand your place in this world and place other people and other societies and cycles are having in this world. And realize that you give birth to new cycle, worlds within us waiting to be born. And it's an art. Life is art. How do you get into the creative? How do you ground Aries in? It's the pioneering spirit, breaking beyond what you thought, going with the heart, feeding into the fire of life, the spirit we all have.
Yeah, and I mean, we are now at the time where the nature is being reborn, so to speak, especially if you are in the northern hemisphere, and so are you. So are you with all of these realizations, especially post-Jupiter retrograde and now post-Mercury retrograde, of understanding things differently. And it doesn't mean that, we have it all figured out or we know exactly where we're going or anything, but we know where we've been, and also we're starting to understand that we're not going back there. So this is also what we've been saying, like about the redefinition of Virgo, like the way we understand Virgo is incorrect. It's about perfection and efficiency and organization, and that's an aspect of it, but actually Virgo is not about that. It is not about world being made perfect or put in the boxes, organized, filed, and stuff, which it might make things easier, but it doesn't allow for expansion or new creation, because only through chaos and pressure something new is being created. Like we say, right, the necessity is the mother of invention, right? This is when new creation happens under pressure. That's why from evolutionary astrology perspective, the squares are actually a good thing, because they force us to change, they force change. And this is why the whole world is going through so much pressure right now, because the change is necessary. Like during this last lunation, this new moon in Pisces, we had the Venus Jupiter, right? Venus Jupiter square, because Venus is the current ruler of Uranus. Obviously Uranus will be moving into Gemini soon, ruled by Mercury for the next 8 years or so, but Venus will become the ruler of Chiron, which is actually the key between Saturn and Uranus, between the known and the manifested and the potential of what is not yet here. So we are all going through this process of rebirth, of being initiated into completely unknown energies, which is what I was started to say, that looking at the cycles of the past are not going to determine your future, because now with Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus moving into Gemini with Saturn, Neptune in Aries, it is unknown. It is unknown. There is no repetition of a pattern. Even those in charge of the worlds, the powers they may be, whatever, you know, they know that. That's why they throw in at us everything. Literally all the tricks from the hat are being thrown at us at the same time to cause as much distraction and disruption as possible, because they know that the battle is already lost. It's lost. It's just all we can see is just the after effects. So I feel we're really learning to become more conscious with regards to where we put in energy into. Just like Aaron said, like, you know, the judgment, we all judge. I am a master judger, especially of myself. But it's not about, like Virgo, you know, perfection. It's not about, now I'm going to judge myself for judging, right? It's about awareness that, okay, I have the awareness of it. In a sense, there is a certain story. I understand why am I doing it, which is not even relevant, but I am choosing to feel in a different way. So it's up to me to change the story. It's up to me to change the focus, the mind, mastering the mind, mastering the emotion, and then you mastered your whole life. Once you learn to master your mind and your emotions, you mastered your whole life. You mastered the matrix.
Yeah, and mastery, you know, what is that? What is freedom? It is mastery. It's understanding chaos is the natural order. And without chaos, there can be no making sense of anything, no need for order to come into the equation, you know. We're learning what Wu Wei is. We're learning how to swim in the river of life. And when the chaos rises, we want to cling to the things we know that have given us safety, security, a sense that we belong, a sense that there's meaning, a sense that we have foundation. And so when the foundation turns or it's crumbling, where do you go? What do you hang on to? You have to learn to release. And as the world turns, the Wentico is going to fully develop into a full-blown werewolf here. And that's going to rise within each and every one of us, no matter how evolved you are. The shadows will rise. And that old saying, you know, those who do battle with the monster do well not become one themselves. So as the world gives us reasons, these limited choices which arise in relation to the reason feel like necessities for our very survival. You know, we're fighting for our future, our children, our beliefs, our religions, our this and our that. But is it actually worth fighting for? How do you put all that tension into creation rather than trying to keep a burning ship afloat? You know, it's hard to do this. This is an individuation process. Only roughly 30% of us will be able to do this. And probably at least 50% of those 30% will feel like they are turning their backs on their families, their societies, the beliefs of what they have known, which have granted them safe passage in this world. You will be said that you are selfish, you are inconsiderate, you are short-sighted. They will scream all these names, you know, because people, if they truly cared, they would realize that what they're defending is false. You know, if someone says my beliefs are false, I have no desire to debate them. I don't care what they think. You know, if your religion is being put down and you feel a need to defend it, if it's true, why would you defend it? You know, so ask yourself, what are the people putting on you? Is it worth fighting for? The people that are putting their shadows on you, do they deserve the love? Do you have enough in your tank to hold that shadow for them? If not, cut bait, say the truth, and move on. You know, that's what we're all learning in these times. You know, imagine these relationships coming into your life. Do they feed you? Do they nourish you? Are they reciprocal? Or are they just pulling you, draining you? Is it a charity of your consciousness for someone else? And if so, are they doing anything with it or just throwing it on the ground, burning it up? You know, this is pearls before swine. It's not about elitism or hierarchy. It's like, what is your wisdom, your life, your love going to do for someone that's just eating it and shitting it out and throwing it back at you? This is the truth of reality. You have to be your own God, you have to be your own authority, and this is that Capricorn, Gemini, Leo thing. What is the authority? Is it the information that they're hiding under the table? Is it the information in your own ignorance? Is that what the true authority is with you? So the freedom is breaking free of the language, find the release language, learn the dynamic languages, nature. Nature speaks. That will give you felt presence relations so knowledge can be replaced with gnosis. And experience, go into the unknown, make wise mistakes. Figure out what that means for you.
Yeah, and I mean everything else that's happening simultaneously, it's not wrong for everyone, like even the things that are happening in the world or theories or something, and I mean I might not resonate with it, I might not desire to be part of it, but it is there for someone, like for me, I don't like spicy food, but a lot of people do, so if they do, they can enjoy, there are a lot of people, many of us that are not really keen on busy cities, socializing, but there are also many people who are, many people who don't like being somewhere in the middle of nowhere in quiet, and then there are people who wants the in-between, right, the comfort, the convenience, but also the nature and stuff. So this is why this planet, the planet Earth is the school, it's the most diverse experience that we can have, because everything is here for grabbing, any kind of desire is has a potential to be created, to be manifest, to be experienced. So this is why I can look at the everything in existence and judge most of it and say this is not for me, it shouldn't exist, I don't want it to be there. But just like Adam was saying, maybe 30% of people are going through this process of transformation to bring the seeds and create the foundation for this something different. But not everybody is here for that. Not everybody is desiring that. And from my vantage point, I would say, well, that's wrong. Everybody should want that. But who am I to decide what that soul wants to experience, what wants to be experienced by the consciousness? So this is where looking at everything in existence, like there is a divine order, there really is, even though from human perspective it doesn't make any sense. You look at the war and the child trafficking and the prostitution and the drug trafficking and the whatever abuse, all that's going on, and yes, and then we say from human perspective, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this shouldn't exist. But this is such a diverse planet, and yes, there are still human laws in operation, moral codes and stuff like that, but from the higher spiritual perspective, everything is in divine order. Even though I might not understand it, I might not like it, I might not agree to it, but that's why they say, well, you go to the shop, you're not going to buy the things you don't like to eat, are you? You're going to buy the things that you enjoy eating, so then don't worry about it, somebody else will buy that other thing. Just like pre-incarnation, all the identities, all the roles are up for grabbing, and there is someone who will grab it. Somebody wants to be the president of USA, not me, thanks God, but somebody wanted to play that role, so good, you have it, I'm not interested. So this is what I mean, that we come into the point where the Aquarius trines Gemini and Libra, everything is in divine order always, but you have a choice to choose which role you want to play, what experience you want to create for yourself, because if you don't create it, it will be created for you by someone else, and then it will offer you the contrast. So everything, there is no waste in the universe. That's why when you look at the nature, there is no waste in nature. Everything that is of a nature, that it has a natural origin, is never wasted. Even your own body, once you die, if you even if you cremate it, even that will be used for something. But if your body is put in the earth, it will be a nourishment for something else. Nothing is ever wasted. So this is why we're going through this cataclysm of conscious awareness or whatever, where we're starting to tune into something else, tune into understanding the world differently, feel into it differently. And also, like Aaron and I were saying, even about, like what he started saying about the alien and the extraterrestrial consciousness, you know, like how many of us would say fairies don't exist? It's just fairy tales, right? Unicorns don't exist, but they exist for some people. Some people have the ability to see them, to communicate with them. For them, they are real. So do they exist or do they not exist? Well, it depends which dimension you are in. It depends which frequency you operate in with. So same with extraterrestrials, you know, they already exist. There are people who communicate with them. There are people who can channel them through, you know, they're real for some, they are not real for others, but you know, it just, so that's what I mean. We are starting to tap into a different awareness with regards to this world and the reality we are experiencing and occupying, because it's changing, and the current state of world, the current state of physical embodiment of spirit and experiencing it through physical three-dimensional realm is not going to be here for very much longer, not in the same way. We are in transition to something completely different. So this is why all of these things that are not in resonance and alignment are coming up, has been stirred up, especially throughout last year, and will eventually come to certain something, you know, whether that's the dissolvement or transformation, transmutation, or whatever it will be. And that's not necessarily for me to decide, to know, or to deal with. I mean, I don't know. So in this Aries season, where are you going with these energies is your choice. That is the freedom, is your choice. What you want to use this energy for, that's your choice, because you are the creator. You are the creator of your own reality. And it sounds all great when we know how to use this energy consciously, so it's not being used to create something that we don't want unconsciously. So this is why we becoming very self-aware, and everything in existence is helping us to become self-aware, even if it's through experiences, situations, and people, and interaction with those which are very unpleasant. We becoming aware.
Yeah, that duality, non-duality thing, it's our conception is our limitation. But that doesn't need to be a negative thing, you know. You either limit yourself in a conception to help the past catch up to the current moment, or you use it to grow. You know, you're always expanding, you know, unless you choose not to. And like you were saying with fairies and dragons and Bigfoot and aliens, and, you know, we go through experiences. I went through very demonic experiences as a small child. I see demons in people, but I also see the light in them as well. I know that not every evil person is, no, there is no 100% evil being in existence. Even the evil that's done is to show the light. You know, the brightest light casts the darkest shadows. They give you an opportunity to find the light within you, and as the darkness grows, that gives us the polarity in a distinction to find the contrast within ourselves. Are you going to settle on the limitations of division, or are you going to break into the unity of your own diversity and say, okay, I can conceive this, but that doesn't mean that's the limit of my growth. I'm going to grow with it. I'm going to co-create with this consciousness. So this is where we are right now, with Mars coming out of, still in Pisces here, but Venus is now in Aries, about to go into Taurus. Uranus is going into Gemini. Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. So as Uranus goes through Taurus back into Gemini and trines Libra, this is a transformation of a relationship with yourself in the limitations of your mind, your language, your labels. So Prometheus is rising. The fire of the gods has been given to you, and now you have to summon the passion within yourself, the felt presence of what is a meaningful life. How do you nurture your spirit? You know, be Hercules, break the chains. And you do that by doing what is in alignment with life, not which restricts and refines it to the perfection of a replicated past. So we're in this process, and as Chiron goes into Taurus, back into Aries, back into Taurus, this is on the nodal axis of Chiron itself, 2 degrees of Taurus Scorpio. And we have Uranus going into 0 Gemini soon. It will be making an inconjunction with this north node of Chiron at 2 degrees Scorpio. So just follow the progressions, just feed the fire. Grow into what feeds and nourishes you, makes you feel like life is a gift and worth living. Don't feed into the dead machines of the past, the systems which ask you to sacrifice and to serve it. Now, this is the past. This is Saturn asking to be reborn through you, through your work, through your efforts. Uranus is the father of Saturn. Chronos, time, changes through conception. Live a 36-hour day. Find out what a different concept of time, space, and metrics means for you. Get out of the limitations of the schedule. Break into the wild. Let yourself lead through passion rather than through persuasion and the limitations of if this, then that, if that, then this type of logic.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. Going to go on our little mission, 4 days in the wild, to rewild ourselves, because the world is so loud and there is so much chaos going on, and no matter how much and how hard you try, even if you meditate every day and stuff, there is still this external energy that wants to pull you out. And not everybody has the luxury of going to some ashram or somewhere, but we all can go into the nature, try to find a quieter spot where you can just be. You can just be, and you can rewild yourself, and you can reconnect with the Mother Earth, because the outer world will always try to steal your attention, to steal your focus, because that's what it's designed to do. You cannot blame the cat for chasing the mouse. It's what it's designed to do. It's in its natural blueprint. So just like with the games, if you play in computer games, you don't want the next level of the game to be easier. You want it to be more challenging, because that's where the excitement lies, and that's what it is also for the soul. Like it doesn't want to keep re-experiencing the same easy. As the soul grows, the experience of life becomes more diverse, more challenging, but also more rewarding, because then you have more capacity for interaction with all that is. So I really feel that this very deeply initiatory energy of moving into the Aries season, starting a new astrological year in this year of the fire horse, when things are going to move very quickly, and very likely already, even though we've been in this energy just for over a month, you feel like, oh my God, has it just been a month? Like we're just about to enter into the second quarter of this year, in just over a week, and it feels like 2026 is already passé, like it already feels like a different year altogether. So just like Aaron said, like whether you think about whatever our day, also the concept of time has already changed. He's already changed. Like for us here in Vallarta, the time goes so quickly that the week feels like a day, and days are just gone like minutes. So when you know that the time is passing differently, and for some people, especially if they're doing things they don't enjoy, and there are in everybody's life there are things, situations, experiences, people where we would want for this to be past already, it's be gone. But when you know that the time is now a different entity, then how do you choose to interact with it? Not use it, interact with it, because it's a consciousness of its own time, and it's also something that only exists the way we understand it in this realm. In different realms, it's being understood and experienced differently. So everything is changing. Everything that you know about this life, about yourself, and everything in your life is changing.
Yeah, bridge in new dimensions of reality through living life. Try and give life meaning through doing something new. Ritualize your life. Challenge yourself. Fear is a powerful tool. It's your friend. Fear is natural, and you don't need to make careless, reckless choices. Do it gradually, just do new things. That's the beginning. And in this time of creation, this is the perfect time to get into ritualizing your life. Aries is the transformation of Virgo, the Fool's journey. Being of service to yourself means you can be of service to others truly, not be a martyr or a savior or a tyrant or a victim. So you can step into new creation, rewild yourself in life, Make what you want to do what you have to do, okay? And the world is going to challenge us. It's going to restrict us. It's going to constrict us. It's going to do a lot of things to push all our buttons. And I know this. I've got a lot of sixth house energy. And I have that Mars in Aries. I have a lot of short fuse energies. And I have learned through this process of transmuting anger into creation. Instead of destruction, creation. Shiva is a powerful thing. It's the power of perception. It is a gift of the curse so that you can cultivate something new. Your parents lived a certain way. Maybe they weren't the best people, but they gave you life. And they don't represent all of your ancestors. They're just holding energies, notes in a song, and it's up to you to play the next part. And you can change instruments, but first tune into who you really are, how your instrument actually is tuned, not the replications or the expectations. So ritualize meaning into your life. Make what you want to do, what you have to do.
Yes. Aho.
Yeah, aho. That's all I have to say on this.
Yeah, we had other things and discussions that we will share over the time. Some of them probably very triggering to people, but I think we're good for this video.
Yeah.
All right, with all of that, happy Equinox. By the time you're watching this, it will have already passed, but happy Aries season, happy new astrological year. Enjoy whatever you're doing this weekend in this astrological year, and just know that we are in the same boat. Some are sailing in different directions, but we are all in the same boat, and we know that that where we were is already gone, and where we're going is yet unknown. So choose what feels the best to you.
Yeah, if your boat's sinking, and you can't save the others, save yourself. Swim by example. So with that said, thanks for watching, listening, and being, and take care all.
Bye.